Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we're going to discuss the astrological energies of October 1st until October 8th. Welcome to the 10th month of 2025, as it certainly feels that time is but an illusion at this point. The energies continue to accelerate, and we are living in these more dynamic cycles of change and evolution. So as we enter into October, we start the month with a strong and active Mercury in Libra. We're going to discuss the aspects that Mercury in Libra is making before entering Scorpio on October 6th, which is also the day of the Aries Full Moon at 14 degrees. Now, the outer planets are not making many transiting aspects this week. Rather, we're focusing on this Mercury as well as the Aries Full Moon, plus Venus in Virgo is going to be conjunct the South Node and then sextiling Jupiter. So she is definitely in a cleaning out phase, and we'll discuss that in today's show as well. I'd like to take a quick moment to welcome those of you who are new to this podcast. This is where I share with you astrological messages and intuitive downloads that pertain to the cosmic energies of right now, and I offer them through the lens of spirituality, intuitive growth, consciousness, and awakening themes. One of my driving intentions with this podcast is to connect us more fully and deeply to the higher expressions that are available to us. Meaning, yes, we live in a 3D world and we are very familiar with what the human experience involves, but there are higher potentials available to us. And at this time on the planet, we have the invitation to embody them more, as well as the ability to integrate these energies as our true birthright, as what we are truly here to experience and live in this lifetime. And astrology is, of course, a beautiful navigational tool around the timings, cycles, and themes that are coming up for us. Astrology is not a belief system. It is an energy system of consciousness, and it guides us with new ways of understanding what we're moving through and what is coming up for you specifically. So, of course, I hope that anything I share here resonates with you. And if it doesn't, that's fine too. Always trust yourself first. Trust what is true for you, leave the rest behind. But I hope that something in today's show resonates and supports you. Now, at this time, as we begin October, we are still moving through the big eclipse waves of change, shifts, new timelines being fully present and activated, and how this feels for us energetically. Most of Libra season is going to involve these eclipse energy signatures, bringing your attention to how you partner. And I want to begin with that topic today because not only do we have the Sun in Libra and Mercury in Libra, but we're entering into a time period of a Cardinal T-Square being set off starting this week and moving through the middle of October that will trigger an ongoing square between Chiron retrograde in Aries conjunct Eris squaring Jupiter in Cancer. Now that's a square that actually is going to last into early January. So this is a month when a square is starting between these two planets, transiting Jupiter in Cancer, transiting Chiron retrograde in Aries conjunct Eris, that unfolds over many months. And over the course of the square, there will be other interactions with Mercury, the Sun, and Venus, bringing in the Libra objective perspective and observations. I did discuss this in Monday's podcast episode where we covered the major astrology of October, giving you the broad perspective of the month, the bigger influences, and the themes to be aware of. And so this month, as the square begins between Chiron retrograde in Aries, it is bringing up parts of yourself that have been holding triggers, wounds, and unhealed aspects of self that you're learning to fully accept and love. The square to Jupiter in Cancer relates to your emotional body, what you are truly feeling and sensing at a personal level. That Cancer energy is related to the past, previous experiences, perhaps stemming from childhood, old memories, repressed experiences, unconscious emotional imprints that formed and shaped you. Jupiter wants you to grow and learn from the past, wants you to see it through a positive lens of experience that you had, but now you have an opportunity to learn from it at a much deeper level. And so this is triggering that Chiron conjunct Aries energy, which could involve themes around rejection, betrayal, exclusion, anger, deep rage that feels very personal. And so there is an energy signature here around what feels emotionally personal to you that October is going to show you with an objective lens how to see it in a new way in order to move forward. And that starts this week. That is coming into view and coming up for deeper thought starting October 1st, when Mercury in Libra squares Jupiter in Cancer at 22 degrees, which begins a story, thought process, and even big words to help you understand something from the past. Now, Mercury squaring Jupiter can amplify words, make it bigger, almost like you have to scream louder to be heard. That Mercury can overcompensate and want to get something out there. There can be a force that comes through here as Mercury squares Jupiter. Jupiter will amplify the message, the meaning, the story, exaggerate it, and even take it out of context. So it's important right now to be aware of not only what you're saying and what you're thinking, but what you're taking in from others, because Mercury in Libra is about the people we talk to, the thoughts we listen to, the opinions we hear, people we converse with, both through simple social conversations, but also bigger thought-provoking ones. And the square here to Jupiter is going to trigger deeper thought-provoking narratives and information that pertains to past experiences. And Mercury brings it into the present in Libra, which means he's thinking about things from the past. And then on October 3rd, Mercury in Libra opposes Chiron retrograde in Aries conjunct Eris. And so this brings through a revelation that you didn't see or know previously, and there can be deep anger around this if there has been hidden information, one-sided stories that are excessive and false, painful messages, and previous experiences that involved those Chiron conjunct Eris themes of rejection, power games, and even the intention to do harm, which can be the case with this Chiron in Aries conjunct Eris. There is a driving need to have power at all costs. There can be a lot of anger that erupts. It's very volatile and all-consuming. It can be vengeful and vindictive. So this is the energy of looking at past circumstances that were damaging. And here comes Mercury in Libra that keenly observes more of what's going on, asks questions, seeks justice, is going to find the evidence and the proof, perhaps already has it. Mercury in Libra asks pointed questions around the intention and the objective in order to understand. And Mercury in Libra often wants to understand human nature. So with this T-square that begins October 1st and lasts until, let's say, October 4th, so the beginning days of October, Mercury brings in new ways of understanding what you've been through, whether that's recently or years ago, decades ago, but wants you to consider it in a new light and be willing to discuss it in a way that allows you to be detached. This is happening at 22 to 24 degrees of the cardinal signs, by the way. So 22 to 24 degrees of Aries, Cancer, and Libra. But if you have planets or points at 22 to 25 degrees of Capricorn, you'd be feeling it as well. Now, as I said, this T-square is going to persist into October. So something comes up now, information, a story, more facts, more questions that Mercury in Libra wants to think through in order to arrive at a more just understanding, just as in justice. But the opposition from the two energies in Aries means there is a fight. There is a desire to stand on one's turf and defend one's position. There can be a huge lack of understanding, lack of objectivity around what has transpired and the effects of it. So be very clear in what you write, say, and communicate as this Mercury in Libra moves through and sets off this T-square with Jupiter in Cancer, which can bring about a lot of emotional energy. A dam can break. There can be an overflowing of feelings, big, powerful, emotional pleas to believe me, understand what I did, understand what I meant or where I was coming from. And the planets in Aries may want to fight to prove something. So there is volatility here. But there's also a push forward, which is part of how a Cardinal T-square works, is that it wants to create something with these three components, with these three astrology signs that are all on the same page for a new direction to be birthed. And that could be one way to look at October as we start the month. What new direction is being birthed for you that is meant to send you somewhere that perhaps you've never been before? It removes you from the past. It removes you from the wounding or pain that has maybe held you back, and it bursts you forward into new territory that may give you pause, new perspectives to consider, and new information to think through. So this can be very active energy as well. And next we see this T-square being triggered the middle of October, when the sun in Libra reaches 23 and 24 degrees of Libra. That will be October 16th and 17th. So this energy does play out for a while, and it means we have to be very conscientious and intentional around how we are moving and what we are expressing, because you might realize, wow, this is from 5 years ago, or this is from 30 years ago. And you might see something in a whole new light in yourself that the universe is saying it's time to be more responsible and more mature with this energy, as well as to step back from your own subjective experience. It's also a reminder that there are always two sides of a story, and the Libra energies will call that forward. Now, in Libra season, we are being asked to look at how do you partner? Not who do you partner with, but how do you approach cooperation, collaboration, and connections. This can be unconscious in us. You might not realize it or understand how you approach your one-on-one interactions. But it's an important thing to consider right now with these strong Libra energies, asking us to birth something new and be more conscious of our own previous patterns and habits. Now, you can look at the Libra energies as how we negotiate, how we exchange and make a deal. We want to perhaps find what is fair and balanced. We want to be objective. We want to observe, maybe step back and not interfere. This can be where you realize you agree to other people's terms very easily, perhaps that unconscious people-pleasing that's been in effect. You might seek approval in order to do something. You might need others to be on board with your choices instead of being in your sovereignty and your free will. And so how you partner is important to think about at a deeper level, especially if you look at it through the lens of two types of connections, either transactional connections or relational connections. Now, transactions are something we all do every day. You go into a store and you know you're going to have a transaction to pay for your groceries, or you're going about your world, getting things done at work or in business, knowing that this is a transaction that you are engaged in. A transaction can involve money. It involves an exchange of some kind that doesn't have to be equal, meaning you could have transactions with your boss or a manager, and they are in charge, right? They're higher up in the hierarchy, and so they're the ones telling you the priorities or what you need to get done, and then you know it's your job to take care of it. Transactions can involve title, status. One person is the decision maker, or one person holds more of the power, and transactions can also be very short term, where after the transaction is complete, you move on, right? You leave the store after you buy your new shoes. You leave the job if you're no longer satisfied with the work. You move on in some capacity when the transaction is complete. And so that is one way that people can approach all forms of interactions and relationships in their life, is that they're transactional based. Another approach is relational. And relational is where you're able to step forward and seek equality and connection with others that's more personal, more open, and more vulnerable. Relational dynamics are where you seek to understand someone, even if you're involved in a transaction. Even if you are purchasing your new shirt at the cashier, you're interested in how their day was, or you're inquisitive about who they are. You are more relationally based because you want to get to know the person. You want to understand more about who they are. And the approach to relational dynamics is one of openness and vulnerability, but you're also seeking the same from the other. And that's what creates common ground. That's where you're both invested in the same way. Both friends are open and sharing what happened in their day. If they had a hard day, if they had a good day, if there was successes, if there was challenges. When you're relational, you're willing to show up in all of your energy where there's no titles, there's no status, there's not someone who's above the other or who's in charge. That means that all people in the relational connection are equal. And you might find that you approach partnership and Libra energies from that standpoint of seeking to know others at a core level of their being. In other words, you're not looking to get something from them, which would be transactional. You're also not operating off of a time-based expectation where this is going to be over at the end of the month, which is transactional. Relational is about it keeps going, right? The connection keeps going, the conversation continues on, and that's how you're developing and building relationships. These are Libra themes. And that's why it's important to look at what areas of my life do I approach from a transactional standpoint, and what areas of my life do I approach from a relational standpoint. And do I do both, or do I do one more than another? And as you notice these patterns in yourself, you start to notice them in other people. And you can understand, this person's only transactional. They're here, then they're gone. This person is highly relational. They want to invest. They want to show up. They want to share space, hang out, have good conversations. You might find you are more transactional in some areas or more relational in other areas. But ultimately, when we start to see these in ourselves, we can see where our expectations lie of other people. And that's part of Libra. What are your expectations of the other? Because if you're showing up from a relational standpoint, that's just how you move, that's just who you are not going to have quality relationships with people who are transactional. They're not going to be able to meet you in that space. They won't let down their guard, they won't open up, they won't be vulnerable, they won't even be seeking an equal. Relational dynamics seek an equal. Transactional dynamics do not. And these are going to be big themes throughout this Libra season especially. And you might really start to see this more in yourself with the Aries Full Moon on October 6th at 14 degrees of Aries in your chart, where that moon is shining a light on who you are right now, what you need, how your self-identity is showing up at this time. The Aries Full Moon calls all your energy back to yourself, brings it all back into who you are at this time so that you can stand strong in your self-concept and your personal needs without overly compensating or overly giving to the other. And as you step back into yourself, you may feel new and different. You may feel that you're ready to assert your independence in a new way or be more courageous. The Aries Full Moon is shining a light on what you need right now that is good for your energy overall, especially as it supports your self-actualization process. And the full moon is a contrast that occurs every month, where then you're going to see others in a new light as that sun in Libra is at 14 degrees, revealing relational dynamics. So that's why I wanted to share some thoughts about how you approach relationships. And if you see it through the lens of getting to know someone genuinely, or if you see others as transactions. You keep them at a distance, you don't really get to know them, you expect them to leave, or you think that you're going to leave, which is of course different than ongoing relationships that are places that we build, grow, and invest in other people. And in your life, ideally, you want to have those strong relationships that support you, people who know you, people who get you, who are there for you, just as you are there for them. These are the people you count on as life throws various experiences your way, and you have to bob and weave through whatever shows up your way. The Aries full moon is going to reveal where you stand and where they stand, who you are and who they are. And that's meant to be enlightening. That's meant to give you more objective understandings of what aligns with you and what does not, as well as a checking in point of what you need more of in your life that maybe has been leaking out, which can happen with the Libra energies. You don't always realize where you have energy leaks until you stop and feel depleted and that you don't have enough for yourself, or you're detached from yourself. You don't know who you are. You don't know what you want. You don't know how to make a decision for yourself. So this is an Aries full moon of coming back to the core of who you are now and really owning who you are, what you need in this current timeline. On the same day, Mercury enters Scorpio, and it's important to note that the Aries full moon is ruled by Mars, and Mars is currently in Scorpio. So as we move through this illuminating period of the Aries full moon on October 6th, the Scorpio energy intensifies. And there's something more passionate driving you that you can't deny. There's a big feeling. There's a sense of, I want this, I'm determined, and I'm going to make moves to get there or to get it, whatever it is that you're desiring. Because with Mercury and Mars in Scorpio, we are facing a fear at a deeper level of our being that maybe we haven't wanted to understand, but now is the time to say, this is what's been preventing me from going for what I want. And this aligns so powerfully with who I am that I'm not going to be held back by my fears. I'm going to face it, I'm going to move through it, and I'm going to be even more powerful on the other side. And I feel that people are going to have a new sense of who they are and what they want that maybe has been confusing, especially throughout September. Because of the eclipses of September, with so much changing and so much coming up, we have been on these roller coaster of energies. But as we move to the Aries full moon, there can be enlightened clarity around who you are and what you want. And I have a sense of not being held back. Like you're just not going to be held back anymore. And this could even relate to people, circumstances, events, whatever it may be around you, because that Scorpio energy absorbs and it can be holding on to external priorities, expectations, and values of other people. And when the Scorpio energy realizes that, there can be rage and anger. The Aries full moon might release something you've been holding that you can't hold back anymore, and it just comes out. It's this unleashing of what you really feel. This is very emotional energy. And in fact, right after Mercury enters Scorpio on October 6th, then Mercury squares Pluto retrograde in Aquarius at 1 degree 22 minutes. And so that square to Pluto in Aquarius is going to bring out some intensity, big words, big feelings, a lot of emotion is communicated that can be passionate and or destructive. Big truths are revealed that can bring about volatility and anger. As you can tell, these are not settled energy by any means. In fact, they're not even well balanced. Right after this Aries full moon, it's almost like the tower collapses. Things just fall because even though that sun in Libra seeks balance and wants there to be an equilibrium in the energy field, this energy in Scorpio, especially as it squares Pluto, it brings about what is no longer in alignment with humanity's best and highest good. And that's one of the themes that this Pluto in Aquarius represents. We are evolving our frequencies by facing our shadows, by facing our fears. And of course, we know this has been ongoing. But now that Pluto is in Aquarius, since last year, since 2024, Pluto is in new territory where we have to face new fears that we weren't aware of previously. And so this is changing that curriculum of our soul growth and bringing things to our awareness that we didn't previously see. So every time a planet interacts with this Pluto in Aquarius is asking, is this where you're going? Is this connected to your new life vision in the new earth and with the higher frequencies? And if not, Pluto dismantles your own life expectations. It collapses what is dense, old, fearful, shadowy. It deconstructs permanently what is not for humanity's best and highest good. And that is where we see more extremes. And that is one way that these energies will be felt here over this next week. There will be more extremes rising into the higher timelines, more extremes crashing into the lower timelines. And that's why I feel that after the Aries full moon, there is more volatility, truth, and revelations around what has been previously hidden. Meaning, if stories were false in nature, if a lot of lies have been told, if a lot of power has been used that has not served people, meaning it's only supported the few being powerful at the expense of many. Also, control and manipulation dynamics are going to be even more evident. And that relates to the lies. That relates to what has been said, perpetuated, and communicated that has been trying to hide one's hidden agenda. Pluto doesn't allow secrets to persist. And so those hidden agendas come forth and they are fully seen, but they're also felt. Because we are more energetically aware, we feel truth. We feel when something is high vibrational and honest, and we also feel when it's not. And this is where the word game loses. Just speaking the words that people want to hear or saying things that sound right, or even just stating something to save your own butt. None of that's going to fly. None of that's going to work. That's all crashing down. That's all ending, especially in the collective and at an individual level. So this means we're each being required to hold ourselves to higher standards of our spoken word, of our thoughts, of what we say and communicate, whether you are writing that out or sharing something with a friend. Our words have more weight at this time, especially in this cycle and in this week, when we have very strong Mercury energies. Keep in mind that Mercury is also the trickster, the schemer, the one who desires to play both sides. And Mercury in Libra can certainly do that as the agent or the negotiator of, okay, let me see what I can get for you. And then running across the street and saying, okay, let me see what I can get for you. So this is where you have to sink deeper into your intuition and trust the energy you're feeling around those words and where it feels off. Keep in mind that this Mars in Scorpio is very strong now because there's a willingness to face things head on, to look at the challenges and know that you can get through them, to push through them. There's a deeper connection to your willpower and what is guiding you at a deeper level of your being. Mars in Scorpio is very resilient, strategic, and can be a true force. But that's only the higher expressions of Mars in Scorpio. Mars in Scorpio is also seeking out who's loyal, who's truthful, who's honest, takes no prisoners, has no mercy. And so the lower expressions of Mars in Scorpio, which is going to be strong, especially again after the Aries full moon, when Mercury joins Scorpio, and they're going to travel together later on in the second half of October. But Mercury becomes the investigator, the one who seeks what's really going on behind the scenes and under the surface, the one who wants all the information and will research it in depth to collect everything that Mercury needs to prove a case, prove a point, or demonstrate important facts. Mercury and Mars in Scorpio can work privately and behind the scenes, making a lot of progress on those secret projects and having private conversations. But the lower expressions of these two in Scorpio is obsession, manipulation, wanting extreme power. It is how a tyrant rules. And these two will go to any lengths to collect information, such as stalking, silently tracking you, moving in the shadows and the darkness, being overly possessive and controlling, abusive, and being motivated by jealousy. For example, let's say you rejected someone over 3 years ago, but they will not let you go, and they still obsessively talk about you, target you, insult you, and try to harm you because of their desire to be in control of the narrative and have the final say. I mean, how many of you are dealing with an obsessive person who won't ever go away after over 3 years? This is not healthy by any means. This is the extremes of Mars and Scorpio. These are people in society, and you don't see those issues right off the bat. You don't see who's a psychopath or who's a sociopath, but it's through the extremes of behavior that is evident and clear, and you'd have to be blind not to see it, especially a pattern of behavior that lasts for over 3 years. These are some of the lower expressions of this intense Mars and Mercury in Scorpio, as well as the interactions with Pluto. And so one of the most important things to do is prioritize your safety, your peace of mind, protect yourself and your family, protect your emotional well-being, and anything else they may be trying to target or attack for numerous years. To a sociopath, these are just games, never-ending power games. But to a normal, healthy person, this is unacceptable behavior. And we're at a time period where the universe won't allow it. So if you have any stage 5 clingers in your world, those are exactly the energies that are meant to be transformed. And that comes down to free will. The universe wants everyone to grow, heal, and evolve. And there is certainly space for everyone to do so. But as we move through Libra and Scorpio energies, you may start to see where your personal sovereignty is out of alignment with another's, and that this is going to be more evident, maybe more extreme even, and that's the universe giving you very important information about what choice and direction is for your best and highest good, because that is truly the only thing you can choose, and that is where your power always lies. So thankfully, we do have Venus in Virgo, and she is showing you clearly what aligns with your energy field and what does not. Venus in Virgo brings us into a deeper connection with our body, our mind, the energy we are holding in the physical world, and how we are using both on a regular basis. Venus in Virgo connects to your lifestyle choices, your energy habits, not only your exercise, sleep, health, food, and nutrition needs, but Venus in Virgo is showing you, does this really serve me? And she's going to cross over the South Node on October 4th and then have a sextile to Jupiter in Cancer October 8th. So what Venus in Virgo is doing here is clearing out the past habits, past expressions, past parts of yourself that didn't really feel like love. Because Venus in Virgo is helping you refine what is love. What does it mean to be self-loving? Since that love frequency starts within. And she's saying, what is loving to you? Is this lifestyle loving to you? Are your mental habits loving to you? Are you loving your body by cherishing it, caring for it, supporting it through a healthy, active lifestyle, through the right nutritious foods that fuel your body? And over the course of this week, Venus in Virgo is going to show you clear results where there is a yes or a no, and then she's going to want you to make small changes. Now, even as she sextiles Jupiter in Cancer at 23 degrees on October 8th, she may be overwhelmed by something that feels good, that validates her, that gives her new trust and belief in herself. But this Venus in Virgo knows she has to stay the course. She has to stay focused on what her body needs right now that supports her energy in this reality and to not get sidetracked on any other matters. And so this is where Venus in Virgo could have you quite fine-tuned and refining something that might be small. It might just be these very particular details that you don't normally pay attention to, but that's her job. Her job is to say, hey, look right here. Look at this crumb. This crumb might not mean anything to you, but this crumb represents something more that you need to understand. And so she gives you these messages in almost silent ways. Again, it could be easy to miss, especially if you don't have any Virgo in your chart. But Venus in Virgo wants you to improve your energy field. She wants you to feel cleaner, stronger, healthier, and more loving to yourself in this physical reality. So as Venus moves through Virgo here, just pay attention to the small things. It's almost like noticing an ingredient on your plate for the first time and realizing, oh, I should eat more of that. Or maybe I should incorporate chia seeds more into my yogurt or my salad or whatever the case may be. Again, just look for the small things because that's where you can have some nice improvements that lead to better results that ultimately are more self-loving. This Venus in Virgo can also help with any overwhelm that might be coming up here as we move into October. Because Mercury is so active, engaging in the Cardinal T-Square, moving into Scorpio, and then squaring Pluto, Venus in Virgo is going to be the stillness in the storm where you just put your hand on your heart, connect to your breath and your well-being, and just trust yourself that what you're moving through, you are capable of handling, and that what is coming up for you is part of this powerful transformational phase that we are all collectively moving through. October begins with big relationship themes that may be eye-opening and transformative because it does work with the eclipse energies as well of what needs to change and the new timelines you're ready to experience. I do have for you on YouTube the chart for the Aries Full Moon. And in that chart, I describe more of the aspects that are in the full moon that can help paint a bigger story around what is coming to your self-awareness that you are ready to fully own and embody at a whole new level of your being. And that's because the Aries energy is always about what's new and ready to be initiated. On Monday's podcast, we'll be discussing more about how soul groups are changing. Some people are going to come forward as new leaders for their soul group. You're going to be the one instigating change, ready or not. You're also going to find that there are some people who travel with you, especially if you have a similar core frequency. And as I say this, I'm actually feeling like there are going to be partnerships that come together based on Atlantis energies, and Lemurian energies as well. So we'll be talking about that on Monday's podcast episode if you would like to join me. Also, for those of you who are curious about going into deeper layers of your astrology chart, a lot of people have loved your Cosmic Codes, which is an astrology course that incorporates the universal spiritual laws. This has been a very popular offering because of how it's connected a lot of dots for people and really highlighted some of the universal spiritual laws that you are here to embody and experience more regularly. Some people have felt like this explains so much. This is why my life has been like this or why it hasn't been like that. So it's just another cool layer of understanding to dig into in your astrology chart. You don't need to know a lot of astrology to get the most from this program. It's very beginner, but it helps you see, again, some more things that you came in with to experience in this lifetime. And I hope it just opens up some really cool breakthroughs for you too. So again, that's called your Cosmic Codes, 12 Universal Spiritual Laws in your astrology chart. And I'll tell you something, this is actually one of the very first courses I created back in like 2011. So yes, it has improved over the number of years that I've been sharing this information. But it directly relates to one of my own spiritual awakenings from one of my most cherished spiritual teachers whom I met back in 2001. And so it was really cool to connect these energies to an astrology chart. So again, please check that out if you're looking for another way to understand yourself and understand your energies. Otherwise, I will be back every Monday and Wednesday for another podcast episode. Wishing you a very beautiful Aries full moon, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.